Please listen carefully.
And welcome back to the Focus Target Podcast. This is your host, Smiley. With me, as always, Captain Smiley. I always forget my new moniker. Got to train myself to move ahead with my captainhood. Self-appointed. With me, as always, Van and Shy. Gentlemen,
Hey.
What it Dizu?
how's it been? It's been a couple weeks since we did a pod.
It
Due
has.
to some, I had some work stuff last week that kind of interfered, so we decided to push it off. So, to our many loyal listeners, sorry for the delay. But we are back, and we have a lot to talk about today. We decided we would kind of talk about a couple of different topics, a little bit here, a little bit there. So, hopefully, you find something of interest to you. But we're going to start with our question of the day. Today's question of the day. Last time we talked about who would win in a fight between Boba Fett and Mando, and it kind of got us thinking, who would win in a fight between the three of us? So your question of the day is, if we were in a steel cage match in a fight to the death, so no escape, no surrender, only one man walks out, who's that man and why? Shy, I'm going to start with you.
I don't know. I don't. Part of me is trying to picture what this would look like. Would we
Alright.
Would we go after each other's throats in a brutal like I picture kind of like, and I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking this, but I think of like the scene from Dark Knight where like the two body, like the black captain, like the Joker shows up in the body bag and he's not dead. He kills the guy, and then the two henchmen are sitting there, and he like breaks that pool cue and like tosses them down, and he's like, we're open for aggressive expansion. Whichever one kills the other, you're in or whatever. I'm like, is that it? Like, are we sitting there with weapons, like just staring each other down, like, or do we like leave it up to chance? Do we look at each other and say we're playing rock paper scissors for this, and we're gonna we pull out pirate poker, die. We're in a pirate poker to it's become Russian roulette. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to avoid the ultimate question of the cage match, which is actually just taking each other down.
Because you want to think about killing two of your
yeah,
friends.
not necessarily. Yeah, I mean,
It's fair. It's a hard question.
Not really. I don't know why we chose this question. Honestly, like looking at it.
It was a long time ago.
I don't know if it was to death. I think when we brought up the question, I don't think it was originally to the death. I think it was just who would win in a fight. I believe that has been modified. Like, if it was a fight, I feel like I would have a different opinion. But
This is clearly a Smiley question, and I think both of you were off board on this question. So why don't you start, Smiley, so you can give us an idea of what you had in your mind when you
Sure.
came to discuss the
Listen,
question.
I don't recall. It was a long time ago, but I'll answer the question as it's presented. I would win, of course. I think I feel like I've always believed in my heart of hearts that if I was, I haven't been in a lot of fights. I've certainly not been in any fights to the death, but I always felt like if it came down to it and I had to win to live, like I feel like I'm a maniac, and I would take down whoever was in my way, if that's what it came
I like
to.
it. That fighter animal instinct.
I feel like that's true. I've always felt, and maybe one day I'll be proven wrong. But
Well, I hope
like,
not.
I always
Specifically not in a fight to the death.
I've always felt like I could take. I've always felt like I could take whoever I needed to take if it came down to it, just through sheer force of will.
I like it.
So yeah, that's my answer. Sorry if you didn't like the question. If you didn't like the question, we were sitting here for like 10 minutes before the podcast. We could have adjusted it, coming up with something different, made some tweaks. Like maybe we could bring it up before we get on the air next time. If you don't like the question that we agree upon.
all right.
But it's fine. I mean, if nobody else. I mean, Van, do you have an answer, or do you have something you
I
want
don't. I think
Okay.
I'm a very passive, non-aggressive person, so I probably just lay down and die.
So it seems like I'm the undisputed champion. That's what I'm hearing.
You just have to carry on your life living with the memories of the two of
It
us.
That is,
just to push it onward.
that's a hard burden to bear for sure. You're right about that.
I wasn't saying the fact that you killed us for the fact that we sacrificed our lives for you. Like, that should
Correct.
inspire you to do great things.
Oh,
and
maybe.
dedicate your life to our memory.
Yeah, my response wasn't you would beat me in a death if I was trying to kill you.
Interesting.
My response was I would
That's
let
what the
you
question
kill me.
was. Yeah, but that wasn't really the question.
Well, then I'll win for sure.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I'm taking both of you guys down. I mean,
I was like, why'd you make me do this to you? As I'm like thrusting, like I just
See,
want
and
to
you-
put myself there.
What? What are we talking about?
Thrusting.
Yeah, like thrusting in a forward motion at his body. Like,
See, and I wonder too, like, if it's obviously a three-way fight, like, is there some kind of like any alliance situation here? Did you two
good one.
people team up? Like,
Yep.
I feel like I could win. I don't know if I could take you both at once.
Yeah,
That might
I
be
don't
tougher. I don't know.
thrusting in a three-way. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been one of our. Oh, go ahead, Shy. You got something?
No.
I was just gonna say it's been a fantastic question of the day, one of our best for sure. We'll try to
By far.
try. Maybe it needs some work. We'll try to do better next time.
Oh man.
All right. Well, if you have a better suggestion for a question of the day, maybe we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. We've never. Maybe I think one time did we have a submitted question of the day. I feel like that happened
Yeah, we
once.
did. And then you asked the wrong question and we got in trouble. So we had to ask the right question
Oh,
after.
that's right. That's
Mm.
right. That did have. That was a good time. That was great. Yeah, so if you've got a question for us, if you got a better suggestion for a question of the day, or if you want to circle back on this one and make Shy answer honestly, whether he thinks he could tear our hearts beating from our chests, like give us your feedback. We'd like to hear from you. We'll have our contact information after the show. All right, let's get into some of the stuff we're going to talk about here. Today is a potpourri episode. We're going to kind of do some rapid fire stuff. Let's start with the NHL. NHL update because there's been some crazy stuff. Trade deadline came and went. Some people were buyers, some people were sellers, some people tried to be sellers, but the NHL said, not doing that. So maybe we'll start there. What's going on in Vegas, Van? Like, it seems like
I
things
don't
have.
know, man. I'm worried, bro.
I
I'm
would
not
be worried.
the very happy VGK fan that you often see on this podcast. I'm a little worried. There is some good news, late breaking news, or I guess as of yesterday, that Leonard and Stone will be back in the lineup soon. But ever since they've been out, we've been playing sub 500 hockey. It's been rough. And that's with the addition of Eichel, which is surprising. Now, granted, you don't expect one player to carry an entire team, but you do expect better than sub 500 with a guy like Eichel on your team, swapping Eichel for Stone. Now, granted, Stone is huge. So we're getting some injuries back that we've been plagued with for a long time, for 4 weeks going on now. Of course, the goalie, a very important spot. And then, of course, your team captain as well with Stone. So it's dangerous. I think we're fourth in the standing right now, or third. Where are we here? Fourth. So, yeah,
And
sorry, go ahead.
I think the big problem is you don't have like a lot of the guys right behind you have a number of games in hand.
Yeah.
Dallas and Edmonton and well, if somebody else is in there, Vancouver.
LA, I think, is in there too.
LA
The
still ahead. I
Kings, I
think.
think, right? Are they ahead?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're actually ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
Kings are ahead. Yep.
it's going to be a
Yeah,
battle
it's
for
kind of
sure.
rough. So hopefully with those activations, we'll see some stuff turn around. And we'll see what happens. Like you were talking about with the trades, not really a lot of big trades happened. We did lose Dodonev for like a week. And then they looked further into his contract and said, "Oh wait, he has a no trade clause." I don't know how we missed that. So let's go ahead and bring him back to the Knights.
What I heard was it was not disclosed to them when he was acquired that it was actually on. I think it was Ottawa who traded
Ottawa,
them
yeah.
to the Golden Knights. Apparently they didn't tell the Golden Knights that he had a no trade clause, and then when they traded him, he was like, "Wait a minute! Like I thought I had this in my contract," and they looked it up and he did, and so they pulled it back because he did not apparently want to go to Anaheim.
Right.
Well, and the weird thing is, apparently, this whole time it's been on Cap Friendly. So if you went to Cap Friendly, the website, it actually said he had a no trade clause for Anaheim, and like, so it's just
But
out there on the
nobody else
website. And it's just like the team. It just, I think it's brought up a lot of questions about like just procedure when you're trading players and like how no trade clauses are handled. So I'm sure it'll be for the benefit of everyone. I'm curious, Van, do you know how they're able to reactivate Stone? Because my understanding was the whole reason they're trying to get rid of Dodonov was my understanding was they only had like half a mil. They only had like $500,000 in cap space.
So there's
and I think
there's
Mark
definitely
Stone was
not,
like
not
millions.
cap space. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to work that out yet.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
they definitely have cap space issues that they got to work through.
What I've heard is that they're still maybe trying to find somebody to take that off because they can still trade him as long as it's to a team that's not on his list and he's not eligible to play for the rest of the season or the playoffs. But somebody could still take him, like a team, say like an Arizona or an Ottawa or somebody who's not in the playoffs anyway, who maybe would say, "Hey, yeah, we'll take this guy off your hands so you can reactivate the players you need, but it's going to cost you a couple draft picks or whatever." Um, so
Yeah. Well,
We'll stay.
Once Donov came back to the Golden Knights in the last 2 games, he scored 5 points. So
Yeah, right.
3
I
assists
saw
and 2 goals. He's
he had
like,
the game-winning goal
all
in
of a
overtime the
sudden,
other night,
yeah,
didn't he? Yeah.
yeah, he did the
So,
overtime win.
so
All of a sudden, he's like, yeah,
pretty classy move. Like
Yeah.
a guy like that, you'd say,
right,
get out of here. We don't want you
yeah. You're like,
anymore.
oh,
Like you could really come back and
okay,
be like, all right, well, I'm gonna, give you
you can't do
50%
anything with
not
me.
get
Yeah,
hurt.
exactly,
Right.
right,
But it's a very professional move on him,
Yeah.
on
yeah,
his part. So good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes down. Like it's kind of crazy, which it's interesting too, coming from the Avalanche's point of view. Everything's kind of Av centric, but like when we look at Vegas and it's like you see a guy like Eichel, who obviously a high profile player, but had problems with the team he was before, comes in. You expect, as Van say, like you expect a high talent guy like that's going to make your team better, and yet it doesn't seem to have been the case. Like from an Avs perspective, we think of a guy like Matt Duchene, who that was kind of his story. He had some trouble here, was a talented player, but then like everywhere he's gone, like as soon as he went there, they kind of
yeah,
did not seem to get better in the way they thought they would by acquiring him, I guess.
right,
And so like you wonder, is it, and not, I'm not trying to say anything about Jack Eichel, but like it's something that you notice when you've gone through it. And
yeah,
you wonder if there's something similar there. So, um, but yeah, I personally, from a selfish standpoint, I'm hoping that Vegas can recover enough to get the 8th seed, because I want them in the first round. I want vengeance from last
yeah.
year.
From last year,
Like
yeah,
I don't want there to be a caveat if the Avs do go all the way and say, oh well, Vegas had so many injury issues they weren't able to make it. If they'd been in,
which
you would have
literally
had a
did.
different
Like,
story,
and
right?
I get everybody has injuries, and anybody who's followed
Oh,
sports for more than 2 years understands like injuries are going to happen. But the amount that the Golden Knights have suffered this year has just been
it's
insane to me. It's
brutal.
been bizarre. Yeah,
It's hard to win, like you said, when you're on your third string goalie, or whatever.
we
You
have
guys
been using.
were on
We
for a
pulled
while.
up the freaking American League goalie of the year just to fill in some spaces.
Yeah.
Logan Thompson, who's been doing actually off and on. It's weird. He has amazing games and he has not amazing games.
That's typically the way with young goaltenders, right? Guys who aren't quite ready for the NHL. It's usually not that like they can't play goalie; it's they don't have the
Right.
consistency night out,
Yeah.
night
Right.
over
And
night.
that's what we're
That's very
seeing.
common.
Yep.
Yeah. What's going on in Seattle, Kraken man?
Yeah. So they were very active at the trade deadline. At first, honestly, to a worrisome level for me. Like there was at least one person we knew would be traded. Pretty much Mark Giordano.
Yeah,
It was pretty
he
much
was
known
labeled.
across the league that like they were probably going to take whatever capital they could from him. He was an unrestricted free agent. He was going to be gone next year anyway. And so they would probably try to like get whatever return they could. And so they did. And it sounds like it was a really good situation. Like honestly, I gained a lot of respect for our GM during the trade deadline, because it sounds like there was a lot of thought put into the players as well as the assets. So like apparently he went to Mark Giordano and was like, who do you want to be traded to? And Mark was like, just trade me to whatever team you want to. And he's like, well, you have to give me a list technically. And I guess Mark just gave him like a list of 10 teams that weren't in the playoffs, like just basically making it apparent that he just wanted to go to a competitive team. And Ron ended up trading him to Toronto, which is where Mark is originally from. So like basically sent him back to his hometown, which I think is a team he's never played for. And so I think it was actually like really cool. At first, I think he played for them like the next game, and I think the crowd was really into it because he's from Toronto, and like hopefully that'll just be a great fit. Like who knows, maybe he'll re-sign with them, and that'll be he'll stay with Toronto. But
I feel like
it's just,
Toronto could use a guy. I thought that was a good pickup for them.
yeah, and so that was cool. I mean, they also gave him Colin Blackwell. I'm probably gonna say a lot of names that if we have any viewers who know of hockey or even follow it at all, they're probably not gonna recognize all these names because really the Kraken don't have any like superstars. Mark Giordano is probably the most recognizable name on our team. But we sent another player with him. We basically just dumped a lot of our like regular players. Like I think we traded away like 6 to 8 players in like 3 days or whatever. And we got a ton of picks. I think we have something like 34 picks in the next 3 drafts or something like that. And like I don't know, we have something like 5 or 6 picks in the first 2 rounds in the next draft, this upcoming draft. Like we have a lot of picks. What's weird is we picked up a couple just players to fill those holes. Like we need to be able to field a team. So a couple of the trades we just got some names I wasn't aware of. One it was a guy named Daniel Sprong, who I think might be the only active NHL player from the Netherlands, I think is my understanding. And this guy, in the 3 games he's played for the Kraken, has scored a goal in every game. So he's 3 goals in 3 games so far. And so, like, I don't know. That may not be sustainable. I have no idea. But, like, that's just
Completely
crazy that, like,
sustainable.
we just picked up a random person and they're producing. But, we're 2-1 in our last 3 games. We just destroyed Los Angeles. I think it was last night, 6-1 on the back to
Nice.
back. We're going up against. I think we're going up against Vegas in 2 games in a row this week. I believe if I remember correctly. I know we're playing you guys. I think tomorrow night, but I don't remember if we're playing you a second time as well. So those could be interesting. Because basically Seattle at this point is just playing spoiler. Like we're out of the playoff race, so we're just trying to beat teams that are trying to get into the playoffs, and apparently we're having some success. So we'll see how that goes. But
Nice. Yeah, it seemed like early on there were a lot of questions about what Seattle was trying to do, um, philosophically, with some of the moves that they made, and it was a little bit surprising, I would say, to some people. But it does seem like they've kind of got a plan going forward, which is, I think, what you want. When it's your team.
Typically.
I'll give a brief update on the Avs. Number one in the league, still kicking ass, taking names. Probably peaking too early. They did make a couple of trade deadline moves, which I thought were good. They got a little bit heavier on the blue line. They brought in Manson from the Ducks, who's not actually played very well for us. He looks like he's adjusting, but I think he'll be all right. They got Lekkinen from Montreal as a third line guy, who I'm pretty excited about. But like he's stuck in like visa or like I don't know, like he can't work for a US company yet. Like they're having trouble being able to get him like he's with the team. He's been with the team since Monday, but he hasn't played in either of the games because like they need his immigration stuff to come through. So I don't know what's up with that. I'm hoping he'll be playing tonight against Calgary. Um, and they traded Tyson Jost for Nico Sturm, which I felt like was a sad move. Like I think they did it originally when they were still in on the Claude Giroux sweepstakes that apparently weren't as much of a sweepstakes as maybe people thought. Because they did it both. But I think Nico Sturm's an upgrade on paper from Tyson Jost, and he's also was cheaper, so it saved him, gave him some cap room. But I mean, Jost was kind of a well-liked player, both by the fans and I think in the locker room. He'd been with the team for 5 years. He'd been with it through some of the rough times and like building and building and like been kind of I mean, he's like a third, fourth line guy, so you can't say a core part of the team, but it's kind of heartbreaking to see a guy who's kind of been with you for the whole ride, kicked off the train right before the last stop. Like if the Avs go on to win, like he was part of that entire build and just doesn't get to celebrate the win with them, and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad to see a guy like that go. Like, even though maybe it makes the team better, there's the kind of the human element. That's the kind of it's like it's a shame. And what's worse is they traded him to Minnesota, who is my most hated team, and in general, I think Avs Nation's most hated team for a long time. And like even going back to the 2014 playoffs where they beat us in 7 games and had some shenanigans. Like most of the players on those two teams aren't even the same anymore. But like the bad blood seems to continue. Like every time they play, like there's like they just seem to like be like mucking it up more, and like there's more like fighting and pushing and shoving. Like they just like there's just like a something about those teams that don't like each other. So to see him go to a team that I can't even root for him on is sad. I'm hoping that they'll trade him somewhere out east, and like I wish Tyson Jost a really good career because he was a great guy and I liked him in Colorado.
Smiley, you mentioned Minnesota Wild. It
Ugh.
might be worth mentioning another player with some VGK connections now connected to the Minnesota Wild.
Was that?
Marc Andre Fleury getting traded to the Wild.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
they seem to pick up some potentially interesting players in the
What
trade deadline.
What's funny is that like Talbot, who beat us in the last game in overtime, I might add, is like on like a 7 game, I think 8 game winning streak now since he beat us. Like they got him almost as a number 2 goalie, which is kind of
That
funny.
was crazy.
Um, and like I mean, good for them. I'm not afraid of Marc Andre Fleury. Like like they didn't even play him against us last year with Vegas. Like it was Leonard again that they put in. Um,
I
I
played him
like
in the playoffs.
yeah, but not
He played
against
most
the
of the
Avs.
games. Oh,
He didn't
okay.
play against he played I think one against the Avs. Leonard played all.
No,
Yeah,
he played
played it.
most of them.
Did
No, he
he?
played most of them, and I think he got an. I'll have to take a look. I think he played
Well,
most of them.
look, I
he
And then
thought
played.
it
I
was
thought he
Leonard,
played a
backwards.
Leonard played a
couple.
couple.
All right.
Maybe
Hmm.
I'm mixing it
Yeah.
up. Maybe I have it
Yeah.
back.
I think they pulled him when he scored his own goal. Was it an own goal? I don't remember. We'll have to look it up. But yeah,
We'll have to effort that. But yeah,
yeah,
but I'm not really afraid of Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm not
you
afraid of
should
the
be.
Wild really at all. Like I hope we get the Wild too. Like for my I want the Avs to like earn it this year, right?
Hmm.
Like I want them to beat Vegas, Minnesota, Calgary, since everybody's like, "Oh, Calgary's so good now because they got freaking Tyler Toffoli, like he's gonna make the big of a maybe he will." I want Calgary, and I want either the Lightning. I'd like the Lightning because they're the two-time Stanley Cup champs. I would settle for Florida since Claude Giroux basically gave the finger to the Avs and said, "I'm only going to Florida." Like I'd like to show him what he's missing if there's an opportunity for that. So like I want the best of the best for the Avs this year. Like they look like the best team, they're the number one in the league. Like prove it. Like go out and do it, and like let's see what happens. Like I don't want an easy path, to the Cup Finals. I want it to be earned, and I think they're capable of it. So
You heard it here first, hockey
yeah,
gods. Make it
little,
happen.
little hubris for the Avs, but
7-game series across the board.
that
Just
and that'd be. I would. God, that would be really stressful, but that'd be really awesome because I love Game Sevens. All right. Anything else on the NHL that we want to discuss? We'll check in, I'm
That was a
sure, in
good
a couple
quick
weeks.
recap. I think that's probably the
Yeah,
fastest we've ever done one of those. I'm
yeah.
impressed.
All right. Well, let's move on to what's kind of a little mini disc in the drive here. What have you guys been playing lately? Have you had time for games? I'll start with you, Van. Like, what have you been playing? Because I know what Shai's been playing.
I'm playing a couple of games.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll start with just one. Gran Turismo 7 came out. I don't remember if it came out before. I think it did. But
Uh,
that's
Not our last pod. I think our last pod you had mentioned that
that
it
it was
was
coming out
coming
or I was
out.
getting
Yeah,
it
it
or
was
something.
coming
Yeah,
out in like a
gotcha.
day or something. It's right
Yeah.
after our last pod, I think.
So I ended up getting it, and it's like the perfect PlayStation 5 game. Like you pick up for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. The game is beautiful. I know we've mentioned this before. I'm always surprised with, and it's gonna sound like a dig. It's not. It's just something that I've noticed. When you went from 8-bit to 16-bit, it was huge. 16 to 32, huge. 32 to 64, huge. And then like as games progress nowadays, like it's a next gen console game. It's a PS5 game. It's in 4K, just like PS4 did before. But it's like the colors look better. They look more vibrant. The shadowing looks a lot better. But like the detail hasn't improved much, and that's
Hmm.
like bizarre. And I think it's like you said, the pixels can only get so small before your eyes can't really even detect
Yeah.
between one set of resolution versus another. So I think I'm gonna set myself up to just stop thinking of games possibly looking
mm,
incredibly better every single time they come out. Um, but no, the game is beautiful. It's really really well done. It is the 25th anniversary of Gran Turismo, and that's insane
mm,
saying. And they did it. They have done almost everything right with it. It's been a very fun game. It has all of the elements from the previous Gran Turismo, the missions. It has a ton of tracks. It has the licensing system, and incorporates all that in addition to the sport version, which was the one that was previously released like 7 years ago or whatever. That was all the Gran Turismo we were able to play. The previous one was online only, and they had a couple of small missions and stuff like that. But this game is just really good. I really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. It's not without controversy. So how much like many games are today, and it's so annoying. 90% of the game is not playable unless you're connected online. So they brought the servers down to do a server maintenance for 3 hours that ended up lasting 36 hours. So
Oh
for a
shit.
day and a half,
No one could
nobody
play.
was able to virtually play any Gran Turismo.
That
And I
sucks.
think I think what you could do was I think it was free play was the only thing you could do, and you can access your garage if you went like this roundabout way while the servers are down and just stuck with the spinning wheel forever, and you had to let it cancel twice or something ridiculous before it finally let you in the game. It's just ludicrous. So anyways, it made a huge stink online, rightfully so. They compensated you by giving you 1 million credits. But you couldn't play the game for a day and a half, and it just really brings to light how annoying this everything must be online in order to play a single player game is. And this game is 95% single player. Well, I guess it's up to the playstyle, but the only thing that requires online connection is sport version. and everything else is single player. It's just you versus AI, and yet you have to be connected to the internet in order to play that. It makes absolutely no sense. So, but anyways, I digress. The game itself is when it is online is very good, runs well. The cars are beautiful, the scenery is beautiful, dynamic weather which changes throughout the track, which is pretty cool. They've just done it right, and they brought back tuning parts and all that stuff. So I've been just head down in that and playing that when I'm not on my PC talking about the other game I've been playing, which we'll come around to.
All right. Shy, I had said I knew what you've been playing, but maybe you'll prove me wrong. What's been in your drive?
I've been playing Final Fantasy VIII. No. I mean, I've been playing Lost Ark. I mean, you know what I've been playing. So, yeah.
How's it
I'm,
going?
ma- I'm making a
Where are
note
you?
because I feel like a good topic for future podcast would be online only games. I think we could do some research
Yeah.
and find out why do companies even like. There's got to be a reason why. They must give some justification as
There's
to why it
definitely some
exists.
reasons.
So
So,
But yeah,
we'd be
that'd
interested
be a
to
cool thing to
examine
talk
that.
about.
I could quickly touch on that if you want now.
It's up to you. Or do you
Okay,
want to save
you're
it for the?
silent.
Do you want to save it for the pod,
Let's save it for the
the
pod.
future pod?
Save it for a pod.
Let's save it for
All
the
right.
future pod.
Save it for a
Little
future pod.
teaser out there for our listeners.
There you go.
All right. I'm still enjoying Lost Ark a lot. I don't really know what to say besides that. They've been doing some like they're starting to like so they've launched the game and then there's been a bit of controversy in the game about like release schedule, communication, all this stuff, and they've been fairly transparent. They released a note about a week and a half ago saying like really just spelling a lot of things out. Like this is why we're releasing things the way we have been. These are some of the challenges we faced that like Korea and other areas haven't faced. So for instance, like the bots, the huge bot issue that's happening in America. Apparently in Korea, I didn't realize this, but like your gaming like account is tied to your social security number or something like that, and
Yeah.
so like you literally can't like have I guess like gold sellers or proliferate like gold sellers technically because they can't just spam accounts versus like Steam. So they're doing some changes there where they're having like they're making it so you have to be a certain status in Steam to be able to create an account. They're trying to like make changes. They talked about just how a lot of some content that needs to wait for the classes. They talked about like skins, how skins like are dependent on classes being released and stuff like that. And I guess like Smilegate, the Korean developer actually flew out to Amazon, had like a week long
No relation to Captain Smiley, just to be clear.
yeah.
Not
But
affiliated.
you know, if Smiley wants to reach out to Captain Smiley, you know, I mean, he might be
Think
willing
about
to have a talk. But yeah, all that being said, they've had some cool events. They had like a little like race event. I don't know if you tried that, Smiley.
Fun, yeah. I try to
fun
do it
little
every day. Yeah.
Mario
I like
Kart style event.
God, I'm so bad at it though. Like I finished DFL last night when I ran it, and I was like, man, like you'd think I'd get better as I do this. No, I just suck.
It's pretty RNG dependent. I don't know if you tried the other new event, but the casual Guardian raid is pretty fun. Where basically you fight 3 Guardian raids, but one of them is like a defender type that shows up to like help like the other 2. And if you break its armor or whatever, you get these crazy buffs, and like you can do it multiple times in the fight. And so like today I did like my ultimate on my Soul Fist and did like 360 million damage crit because we'd gotten all 3 buffs and I crit or whatever. It's pretty, I don't know, it's cool like doing some different stuff in the game. And it's also cool because some of the friends of the pod have gotten up to tier 3, so we've been able to like actually start doing some tier 3 content as a group, and it's been fun. Like it's fun not having to, match make. So and then Smiley, I know we've done some stuff with you in the past like week or so. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before we bunch of us stayed up late and ran some stuff and
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that that Guardian raid event is nice because it gives me, as somebody who hasn't done a ton of Guardian raids and doesn't like doing them with pickups that much, it gives me an opportunity because it's still like the normal Guardians. It gives me an opportunity to like work on their moves and like kind of learn their patterns and learn, what I need to know about them in a little bit lower risk environment. Like you said, like you get some of those big buffs, like you just tear them up. So, well, I have a
Yeah,
couple
you're talking about
Oh, go ahead.
the bot issue.
Bots.
What specifically is the bot issue? Like what's going on? Is it just chat spamming? Is it
Yeah, it's chat
are
spamming.
they
Just
manipulating the economy
The
in any way? Like
I think
I
I
think
think
the
the idea
economy is the bigger
yeah.
problem.
I think
Go
the
ahead,
idea is
Shane.
that the economy's been manipulated, and also that they're annoying, and also I think the idea that they could also scare away new players because a lot of like the early zones are just full of bots and they're speed hacking, they're one-hitting enemies, they're like
oh wow.
making the early zones just like a pain, and so a lot of people are concerned about that. Yeah, and then the economy.
How are they affecting the economy?
They the you know how it is when there's massive inflation. We saw it a little bit in Final Fantasy 11, right? Like when
Gotcha. So
so
just because they're adding so much currency to
it's really I think from what I've read, and Shy, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like when you're trying to get up through tier 3, it's very gold intensive, right? Like it costs a lot of gold just to attempt to upgrade your weapon, and there's a high fail chance, right? And so the way people combat it a lot of times, not only is there a gold cost like in the game, but like you need so many mats that like the people who are getting to the higher tiers, it's more than you can really farm. Like you're buying materials, and because there's so much gold being added to the economy from all these bots, like the gold prices on a lot of those items just went through the roof. And so
Mm,
like you really like couldn't like only certain people could really afford to. And it kind of made a lot of kind of haves and haves nots because a lot of people who got those materials like or got there early got to where they were and then were able to farm and just sell 100% of what they were making and got a bunch of gold for it. Now they're sitting like now you got kind of like almost like oligarchs in Lost Ark who are just sitting on a pile of gold that they made. Now that a bunch of bots have been banned, and now the prices have come down a little bit, but like now there's all these people who have all this money that other people can't replicate, and so it caused like wealth inequality always causes and especially people who I think kind of either missed the boat or feel like they were disadvantaged. Well,
Yeah.
if there's one thing about this game that I have not missed, like the bigger a game is, like, I feel like the worse maybe it's just because there's always a vocal minority, but I feel like the community is, like, so whiny and it's just, like, like, everybody's always just crying about every goddamn thing. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. I've and
so
like and it yeah, well.
would
Go
you
ahead.
call them, yeah, Ola Losgarks? Ola
Oligarchs.
Ola
Oligarchs.
there's a joke in there
Oligarchs.
somewhere.
There's a joke in there somewhere. What
Lost
Lost
oligarchs.
oligarchs?
Lost
Yeah.
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Very nice. I didn't even come up with that. That's great. All right, so I do have a couple questions for you. So are you like how close are you to being like maxed out on what's attainable in the current as far as like your item level?
Yeah, I mean, so there's no cap. So there's like screenshots on Reddit of people finding people that are like 1490 right now in the game. Like it just comes down to money, right? Like, and people speculate those people are spending tens of thousands of dollars to get to that point.
Good
So like,
lord.
so I mean that's as far as like the highest content in the game right now is
Right.
1370. That's the kind of the
Yeah.
goal. That's that new raid they released, and that was a big controversy I didn't touch on. But like they released this raid that was 1370 like 2 weeks ago, and like at the time I think 5% or less of the player base was even 1370. And it's like, why are you releasing content that like only 5% of the game people can even use, who then could get these accessories and gear they can then sell for tens of thousands of gold a piece probably, and make and
Well,
further the inequality.
I guess too, like the part of that was that from 1340 to 1370
Mhm.
is considered a real dead zone,
Yes.
and it's
Yep.
very difficult. And like, there's things that the Korean version had that eased
Yeah.
it that we don't have yet,
Yeah.
and so there's a lot of disgruntlement about that.
Yeah, and like honing rates, improvement, stuff like that. So I'm in that dead zone. I'm 1361 right now, so I'm not
Oh,
too.
okay.
That sounds like I'm close. Like I'm 1361.6 or something. So I'm like 8.4 away, but that's probably gonna be 2 to 3 weeks probably. Like
Every percentage
like
that gets closer is harder
yeah.
and harder,
I
right?
mean,
Like,
my starting rates for enhancing gear is 15%. And
oof.
when you fail, you get like a 1% increase or something. And then like you do
What?
like get a pity at some point where I'll just bump it to
Eventually.
100. But like the mats are so hard to get. Like I may need. I'd probably, if I cared a
Need to
bunch, I
buy?
would probably start buying some stuff with gold. Like not buying gold, but like I have gold I could spend on materials. But I don't know, I've no reason to rush to it because I mean, Z and Orius, friends of the pod, have really caught up with me, so like I can actually do some of the drought content. But I don't think either of them are pushing to 1370. So if I get to 1370, I'm gonna be pugging that raid. I don't know, probably
And
not.
so my next question is kind of related to that. It sounds like you've already answered this a little bit because, like you said, there's some people in the guild who've caught up a little bit. But like, do you feel like you're burning out at like now that you've kind of reached this dead zone that a lot of people are complaining about? Like, do you feel like the game's gotten very monotonous or repetitive or just not as fun, or are you still just like taking it slow and enjoying what you're doing?
I could see how people would feel that way. I've not gotten there. I still have enough just like side story stuff I'm doing. I just unlocked one of the hardships to get. I've been working on upgrading that. Like there's so much to do.
Lots to
Um
do.
where there have been a couple times where I've started feeling like I'm burning out a bit, and the reason that was because I was trying to do all my Unis tasks across 3 characters. I was trying to do 9 Unis tasks a day every day.
Well,
And that like started I mean it's easy to dump if you're trying to play 2 or 3 characters to their max time. It's easy to dump 5 or 6 hours in a day into this game, and there was a time when we all could do that. And of the 3 of us, I probably am the one who probably can still do that the most realistically. But still, that's just a lot of time to throw into a game, and like so, I've had to like kind of like curtail that, and just like I've been focusing on kind of 2 characters. But I'm really enjoying the game. The characters are different. I think it's fun to play multiple characters. It's just the stories are. I think I don't know. Yeah, I've not burnt out.
good to know. Anything else you want to talk about on Lost Ark at this point, Shy?
No.
Then I'm going to transition to what I've been playing, which is also Lost Ark. I'll hit that first since we're still on that topic. I won't go too deep into it. I'm still only tier 2 on my main character. I've basically, to your point, Shy, like I don't have the time to do multiple characters. I've basically just been working on my main character, a couple hours a night. Like the others are still just I've got one that's just sitting at power pass basically, and one that's like I think I got up to 400 just to unlock some stuff. But um, and I created a gun lancer because I did want to try more of a tanky class. And I actually do kind of like it so far, but I'm still super early. I didn't power pass it. I'm holding on to my second power pass for summoner when it comes out because I really am thinking that may be a job I really want to take seriously. But I'm trying like in when I have a little extra time, I've been trying to work my gun lancer through the story, but it's slow going. But my main character's coming along. My Deathblade's coming along pretty well. I'm having fun with it. Like you said, there is just so much to do, and so I've really kind of alternated between like pushing content and then like catching up on side content. So like I'll do a continent like Yorn, and then I'll go back and do like some of the side missions and things that I've been neglecting, and then I'll go to the next continent and try and do that. And so it's been good, but it is a very enjoyable game. I think it definitely scratches my itch of like collecting and like checking boxes and like working towards completion, like it just rewards you so well for it. And like you do feel like you're constant, like you are getting stronger, like you feel the power creep on your character when I go back to lower areas. Like I did a quest the other day where I had to run like a couple old dungeons. I had to run like you may be familiar with it. I had to run it's one where you had to run Morai ruins and the Toto, like the little mini people final dungeon. And I just like smashed everything in there like so easily. And it's like, man, like Morai ruins was really early on, but like this other dungeon, like it didn't feel like that long ago that like that was a challenging dungeon. So like it's nice. I like when a game makes you feel stronger. Like if you're putting effort into developing your character, you should be able to go back to previous content and not get your ass kicked. So, so yeah, like I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. Like I said, I put a couple hours in a night and just kind of make some hay, wait for summoner.
Nice.
All right, should we go through again, Van? What else are you
Are
playing?
we going through again or moving on
Yeah,
to?
let's go through
Okay.
again.
So the other game that is taking all of my time is a game that we played a long time ago, and many of you have heard us mention it on the podcast before. It's called DayZ, and Mark is the one who got me back into this
Kid
freaking
Mark.
game.
I see you logging
And
into this all the
dude,
time on Steam.
I am like, I'm like hooked just as much, if not more, than I was the
Oh
first time around.
man.
And the first time around, I was hooked like crazy. Um,
Now I know now how people feel when I'm like, I'm playing Final Fantasy 11 again. It's like this is how other people must see me when I say that. Like fucking Daisy. Oh my god.
so there's a mod, the A
Aram.
Survival 2.5 mod. And so it's an independent modder, which is pretty cool. He's European. I can't remember exactly where he's from, but this is just his project. It's his toy. So he took, a lot of the software is already out there. A lot of the mods are already out there. It's for those who don't know, Daisy is a mod for the Arma 3 game, and it's not unlike a million of the other companies that have done it, where you have your base shooter and then people just add zombies into it. Well, so this is his pet project, which is pretty cool, and he ultimately wants to go into development someday and join a company and do modding for a company and become some software engineer and stuff like that. So it's neat. This is the first time I've actually have a direct link to the modder, but because he's trying so hard and he's so passionate about this mod, it's not unlike the Eden that we used to play. So it's a similar thing, but for DayZ. Yeah, do we not play
I'm
anymore?
I'm still playing. I
Okay,
log in
it's
every
like
day.
Eden that I used to play, and Shai used to play, and you're still logging in every day, or is that what you're
Uh,
going to talk about next?
No, just do my gardening. I'm just collecting gil. But like I plan to come back to that. I have not
Nice.
quit Eden. I'm just
Nice.
So, anyways, it's similar
anyway.
to that, but he keeps the server it's fantastic as far as like predictability of being up, availability, and all that stuff. So he does a really good job on that. With all that aside, like there has been some major drama on that thing. Like Mark and I are, it's crazy. You have the people who are just completely neutral. You have like the good, and then you have the bad. And you can imagine where Mark and I sit. Like we are just terrorizing that whole
Oh
server, and
my
it is out of
gosh.
control to the point where there's like factions and like other groups plotting against us specifically. And when they find like our bases, and so you're able to build bases, you're able to raid, you're able to do all these things. When they find our bases and we're not online, I have it linked to my phone to say somebody's breaking into your base, and we can like log in and defend it. I get a Discord note. So when, but it, the server's in Europe and we're in the US, so it's good because we get to raid people's bases while they're asleep. Well, it's bad because they get to raid our bases while we're asleep. So like, there's crazy drama going on. So like, just recently they got into our base and literally like announced on the worldwide server to all the people who had radios, you need to have a radio in order to do side chat, saying like, "Oh, I found Smoke and Ghost base." He said, "I'm taking all of their stuff. I'm throwing it all on the ground. I want everybody to come and just pick up as much as you can." And they just like cleaned us out. So that pissed us off. So then we went back and got retaliation, and we found some other. It's crazy. I could talk about it for hours, just the drama that's been going on. But it's been kind of fun. I think I have peaked in enjoyment, so I think we're going to start riding that down cloud soon. So we'll see what happens in about a month or so. But it's just been out of control. I even killed someone with an axe. It was hilarious. We were both shooting at each other. Like he snuck up on me while I was sniping somebody else, and I saw the shadow over my shoulder, and I like stood up right away, and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I turned around, and both of us are shooting each other on opposite sides of a tree. We run out of ammunition, and he's like trying to reload, and I just pick up my axe and I start hacking him.
As somebody who's been hacked by your
Right.
act in that game before, it's not as
It
fun for
reminded
the
me
other
of you.
person. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did.
But I have it all on video. It's hilarious. So yeah, it's been fun. There's a lot of strategy involved. The game is very unforgiving, which is the allure of those kind of games. It's permadeath, right? You work so hard to gain weapons and all this stuff, and as soon as you die, that's it. You got to be a freshly spawn, and if whoever killed you can go over and just pick up all your stuff and run away. So it's a very, very unforgiving game, but that also, as I mentioned before, is quite the allure to that game. It's not easy, and you know what we like. So yeah.
So is this a mod to DayZ, the mod to Arma 3? Or this
So
is like he keeps
DayZ,
improving DayZ?
yeah, he keeps improving DayZ, and there's a lot of other people who keep improve. So okay, so it starts to get really confusing because DayZ is originally a mod for Arma 3.
Yeah.
Then DayZ itself was purchased by Bohemian,
And they made a
the
game.
gaming company, and they made a standalone DayZ.
Yeah.
Well, this is going back to the original mod. The software was still out there. He open sourced it. And so this is people improving on the original mod DayZ.
All right. Yeah.
So
But
yeah.
it's not. But the guy who's working on it now is not the original dude. Is
No,
that
it's
true?
not. No,
It's
that
a
is correct.
different.
This is the
It's a
new guy.
different
Yep,
modder.
this is the
Okay,
different guy. Yeah.
got it.
That guy sold out,
Yep.
right? So this guy's
Yeah, the other guy sold
yeah.
to Bohemia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they ruined the game, basically. Well, I wasn't pleased with the first iteration. They're still working on it. I haven't played the standalone recently. But yeah, it was in pre-alpha for like 2 years. It's ridiculous. So, yep. So that's it. DayZ comes around again in 2022 somehow.
It just seems like that's the world we're living in, right?
Yeah.
It's
People
probably
need
because
to
we
start
played.
making better video games is what they need to do.
It's probably because we were playing Final Fantasy 11, and that just led you right down like
Might
You're
as well.
following neural pathways that have already been established.
Yep.
What did you
Next,
play after Days? Is it LOL time? Is
next
that
up
what's
is
coming
Terra,
up?
Knights of the Old
Yeah.
Republic or Old
Just
Republic.
just play Lost Ark. That's basically Terra, but better. Um, it reminds me of Terra so much. It
It
really
does.
does.
Yeah.
Very, very similar in a lot of ways. No fan arcs though. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, Shy,
It's a good time.
what else you been playing? You been playing anything else or just Lost
So
Ark?
I haven't been playing anything else, but I wanted to. There was a story I wanted to say about Lost Ark. So like, I'm gonna take a minute or two and just tell a story.
Sure.
I told you, Smiley, the other day, but I don't think I've had a chance to tell Van about this.
I'll pretend I haven't heard it.
All right, all right. So I had a run in. So I was. It was my first time running the very first T3 dungeon. I was like kind of like hesitant to like run it. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of pugging stuff, and honestly, a lot of times people are toxic or like they're just I don't know like. I'd much rather run hard content with people that I can talk with over voice chat and have better communication than just run with a bunch of people who are just going to run in randomly, not communicate, die, and then like rage and quit and whatever, and then call each other d-bags and whatever.
Doesn't sound like a good time.
No, so I've been hesitant, but I was like, I just need to start running this because it's been like a week after being tier 3, and I'm like, I'm just missing out on mats. I'm not like, I just need to start trying it. So I had been keeping an eye on the Party Finder group just to like see if there was like a learner group that popped up. Like so many times, like no mechanics, like fast run, alt run or whatever. And so like, and I saw one pop up. It was like, first timers watch a video, please. And I was like, all right, I've watched the video. I'll join it. So I did, and we went in. We were able to clear the first boss pretty quickly, and then we started working on the second boss, and weren't doing very well. And I was like, this is going really well. Like I'm surprised we cleared the first boss so well. And so we're like, we lost to the second boss like twice, and we're running back to get set up. And all of a sudden, the only thing that like there'd been some communication people just been talking about, like, oh, we got this, we'll do better next time, whatever. Been pretty positive. And all of a sudden, I noticed that our artillerist had said something like, Soulfist has 200 spec. Like that's all he said. And so I'm the Soulfist, and I was like, oh, I guess that's interesting. Like, and I was like, I realized like my gear, I hadn't been worried so much about the stats, and maybe this would be, maybe there's a future deeper Lost Ark podcast. I know we've already done a Lost Ark podcast. Maybe there's a mechanics of Lost Ark podcast someday, but like there's like so many different stats you can work on, and one of them is like engravings, which basically improve your different abilities, a lot of times your class abilities. And so I've been focusing all my gear on those, and I've been neglecting some of like my combat stats. So I've checked, I'm like, yeah, I guess it's really low. And I said in chat, I'm like, well, what, like, yeah, I get that, what is it supposed to be? And he's like, well, I'm a Soulfist main, mine's over like 1,000. So mine was at like 200, crap. And so I'm like, oh wow, I guess like I don't know if my gear was so bad. If you guys need to kick me, like, guys, feel free to kick me. Like I'll have to work on this. And he's like, no, I think we can carry you. So they couldn't, and I don't know if I was even doing the worst. Like we had a bunch of deaths. I was some of the deaths. I think other people were dying. Like it didn't go well, and eventually the artillerists had to leave, and we called it. But like the coolest thing about that, and was that like since he did say something, and he wasn't specifically rude, he wasn't like candy coating it either. He just said what he noticed.
Matter of fact, right?
It caused me to rethink all of my, like I spent like the rest of that week like buying different accessories, actually being very like intentional and thoughtful about my gear choices, to the point where I was able to get my specialization up to like 1200 plus, and realized like how much of a difference that made. And it makes a huge difference. And so like now like I noticed those changes, and I just thought that was cool. I think like it's really made me think about like how many times have I been playing a game like Final Fantasy 14, another MMO, where like I'm running something and someone's not doing well, but I'm just like, maybe I'm carrying the group. I'm like, I'll just get us through it. You know what I mean? I won't say anything because maybe I don't know how to say it, and I assume maybe they don't care, but maybe they do care. Maybe they just don't know that they're not doing well. Like maybe that game's overwhelming to them. And so it was just
especially in
for
a
me,
new game, right? Like I mean, Lost Ark has not been out that long. It's a very complicated game, especially at the higher levels. And like, there's people who played the Russian version or the Korean version or whatever, and like know all there is to know. But like a lot of people are still, figure. Like, I learn new things about it every day. I'm sure there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah, so I just want to share that story, and just like I think that's caused me to rethink like maybe in the future when I want to say things, and not like I think it's all about how you say it, and maybe it's also how they receive it, right? Because I think I don't have the toughest skin, but I don't get super offended by like comments either. So someone else might have taken that and been like, what are you saying, and like just quit or whatever. But that worked out well.
I could tell a story about Final Fantasy 11, but I'll save it for another time.
Oh boy.
Like, yeah, some people have really thin skin, and it's just ridiculous. And it's funny in games like, on a server like Final Fantasy 11, like on that Eden server, such a small server, you see the same people over and over again. Like on Lost Ark, like you're like that's probably cross. Well, Party Finder maybe isn't cross server, I don't know, but like
It is.
it's there's so many people playing. Like, what are the chances you're ever going to see those people again? Probably negligible. Like, if you're a bad player on a private server, like you need to reevaluate your life because you're just burning too many bridges. Like, I don't know how you enjoy a game like that. All right, we're running a little low on time, but I'll take my second time around, and then we'll talk about. We were going to do a segment on some games that we're looking forward to that are coming out because I think there's a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipeline that I wanted to see if you guys were aware of or see if maybe you had games you were talking about. But maybe we'll save that for another pod. Um, so I've kind of got two gaming worlds right now. I've got after everybody in my house is asleep except me, where I get to play Lost Ark, and I've got the rest of the time where maybe I can get a little gaming in on like the Switch or my PS5 or something upstairs, but usually not, very long. Maybe when Sam's taking a nap or if he's like taking a bottle and going to sleep or, whatever. I've had a little time there. So during that time, I really made an effort. I wanted to complete Persona 5 Royal. It's something I started back. I started it right before Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out. So obviously quite a while ago. And but then Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out, and I kind of got caught up in that. And so I'd gotten maybe like 30-40% in to the replay to like because I'd played the original Persona 5. I got that at when we were down at Rido's before my wedding when I went down there and hung out with Shy and Rido and Ray. Um, and I played it and I beat it and I loved it. And then when Royal came out, I wanted to play through it again and experience new content. And so I finally, a couple weeks ago, was able to platinum Persona 5 Royal, got it done. I did really enjoy it. That's a good game. They really I like the Persona games. I like the Persona games a lot better than the Shin Megami Tensei games that they spun off of. Um, and I mean I think I was over 200 hours total of playtime before I finally finished it. So it was a long game to 100%. I definitely by the end I was like grinding. I was just like just keep one foot in front of your other. Like I got to get through this. But so I'm done with that, and so now I'm kind of just like in a holding pattern. I've been playing Hades a little bit because I always keep coming back to Hades. That game, I'm really close to finishing that. Like I've only got a couple of the prophecies left to finish off, and then I'll have actually done like all the story content that there is, I guess. So I'm kind of trying to finish that one off, and I also picked up Triangle Strategy for the Switch, which I think like 5 or 6 chapters in, and like that it's better than I thought. I didn't expect to get it when I first saw it released. I was kind of not that interested in it. Um, I loved Final Fantasy Tactics, but I'm really not that interested in the genre. Like I've never really enjoyed those tactical, like turn-based isometric strategy RPG types. I'll play Fire Emblem here or there. Like I have to be in the right mood for it. But I like the story of Triangle Strategy did kind of capture me a little bit. And one of the cool things that I really like about it is like there's like almost like like there's a lot of like decision points that you make that shape the story and kind of pick your path and change kind of like the things that happen and like where you go, what you do, what happens to you. And like the way they do it is like you don't actually get to make the choice yourself. Your party votes on it. And you have the opportunity, like they have like their own opinions on what you should do, and you can talk to them and try to like, if you want them to change their vote, you can like kind of like
Cool.
argue with them and convince them to say, hey, no, here's why you shouldn't, here's why we should do this
Mm.
instead. And like it's kind of a neat mechanic that I thought added a cool thing to it. And like I think the characters are like I like a game that has a little gravitas to it. Like they do it's like they don't take themselves too seriously, but like there's a little bit of a it's kind of got that like more serious feel. And like I kind of like it. Like I feel like your character is like kind of like trying to be a good lord and trying to like you can kind of play him the way you want and like choose what's important to him and how he treats people. And I don't know, I've been kind of into it, so I haven't had a lot of time with it, but been a great game for when I have very limited time because I can pick it up and even if I only take a couple turns, it's very cutscene heavy and very story heavy. So like that's also a good thing. Like there's times when I can't really play, but I could watch or like listen to the story, which is good. But it's certainly not for everyone. I don't think. Like if it's a little bit, it can be a little bit slow, especially getting going. Like the early part, like if you play the free demo, which I recommend if you're interested in it, there's a free demo of the first 3 chapters that complete like the story, like your save file carries over. So you kind of get the first couple chapters for free. Um, it's good and it's definitely a good test of what you might think of it, but it is a little like it's a little slow in the beginning. There's a lot of kind of building, so don't like judge it. Like keep that in mind. Like it does pick up the pace a little bit as it gets going. It seems like so.
Nice.
And then, yeah, I don't. Well, we won't have another pod between now and then, but so I'll just say I'm very much looking forward to the Lego Star Wars game that's coming out. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga or the Skywalker Saga. Like I've seen a lot about it and it looks really interesting. So I'll probably be playing that by the next time we
I
pod.
heard there's a lot of hype around that game, but yeah, like
A lot of hype. Go ahead.
why specifically this one? Because they've come out with Lego Star Wars like a million times.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think partially it's the scope of it. Like apparently it's a really massive game. Like you basically get to play fully through all 9 movies, plus a bunch of
What?
side stuff. Yeah, it's got all 9 in the 3 trilogies. Like there,
Oh, that is awesome.
it's like fully voice acted, and there's a bunch of like real voice actors who are doing it. Like it's the Anakin and Obi-Wan, I guess, who did the not Hayden Christensen and who else is it?
Ewan McGregor?
Ewan McGregor, thank you. It's not them, sadly, but it is the dudes who did them in the anime and
The Clone Wars.
Clone Wars, which I guess people thought they did a really great job in that. Like the voice, Billy D. Williams as Lando is going to be in it, which is always gets a +1 for me because I love Billy D. Williams. The dude who did Jar Jar, I think, is we'll have the official
What?
Jar Jar Binks. Yes, like um, and I guess it's just a ton of content, and there's like they've kind of overhauled the combat system to make the combat more engaging, and so I don't know. I've never been super into the Lego Star Wars games. I always kind of thought they were fun, but they didn't really hold me. But again, it's kind of about like there's something I always enjoyed. Did you ever play? I don't know if you guys ever had on Super Nintendo the old Super Star Wars games. It was Super Star Wars, Super The Empire Strikes Back, and Super Return of the Jedi, which was basically like platformers where you played
Yeah.
through the original trilogy. And like they were awesome, but they were freaking ball breakingly hard. Like they were really not approachable. And like some of my like when I beat Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back, like I look back on that as one of my achievements as a video gamer because like that was a legit game to beat. Um so like but I always enjoy that. Like there's something about like playing through the entire series from start to finish and like almost like a surrogate for watching the movies, like playing
Yeah.
the movies that I always really enjoy. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to doing here, like playing through the entire trilogy. Like even if I only get through the first 2 trilogies, I feel like I'd be satisfied with that. But
You don't
little
say.
little shade there. But like I said, maybe next time I'll give you guys a report on what I think of it because I've already pre-resed it, so I'm gonna get it for PS5. So all right, I've talked enough. Sorry, we're pretty much at the end of our time with you today. Do you guys have any final thoughts before I provide some contact information?
Half-Life 3.
Half-Life 3. What about it?
I'm just looking forward to it.
Oh, when's it coming out?
I think we should move
Great
that
question.
segment. I think we should move that segment to another podcast.
Okay. Shy, final
Take
thoughts?
us,
Hmm? Hmm.
Saint, take us away.
Go Kraken. Hope they continue to. Oh, one final thought. Our number 2 round, our second round pick in the last draft, Matty Beniers, his team is going to the Frozen Four, Michigan. But the thought is that whenever they leave that, whether they win or lose, that he'll be coming to the Kraken. So I'm excited about the end of the season. I think there's a lot of cool things that could happen. So
I think
final
DU
NHL thoughts.
I think DU made the
Yeah,
Frozen
Denver made
Four
it.
call.
Denver, Michigan, I'm not going to tell you the other ones, but yeah, there's 2 other teams, obviously.
No, that's what Cale McCarr did. They went to the national championship the year he started in the NHL, and they lost the national championship, and then he came and joined the Avalanche in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and I was there for that, his first game and his first goal. Okay. Well, if you have things to tell us about the NHL or video games that you're playing, or video games that we're playing, or video games that are coming out, or whatever you want to talk about, we can be reached in a variety of ways. We have our Twitter handle at Focus Target. We are on YouTube, Focus Target Podcast, where you can see all of our previous episodes as well as some of the side stuff we've done, streams and out of focus podcasts and the like. We are on twitch.tv/Focus Target Podcast, where we live stream our podcast. And of course, the best way to reach the Focus Target Podcast is Focus Target Podcast at gmail.com via email. So, for episode, what episode is this? 111.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, of this Focus Target Podcast. Have we really done that many? I am your host, Captain Smiley.
This is Shy.
And I'm Ben. As always, cover us, Porkins. We're out.